We're spilling tea on religion and health, where intersections of faith and healing combine on ReligiosiTea. As this podcast discusses religious beliefs, religious experiences, personal testimonies, and mental and physical health, some of the content may be uncomfortable or triggering for some listeners. Content warnings will be provided in the description of each episode. Any personal journeys discussed on this podcast do not constitute health, medical, or religious advice. We are simply trying to capture the lived experiences of real people who would like to share their own stories about religion and/or health. Hello, and welcome to the ReligiosiTea Podcast. I am your host, Adren Warling, and I'm excited to be here. Today, I want to start off by telling you a little bit about myself, then get into why I'm doing this podcast and where I hope to take it. I'm excited to begin this journey of sipping tea and spilling the tea on people's beliefs and well-being. I am currently a doctoral student pursuing my PhD in health sciences. My research in this program on religion and mental health outcomes among LGBTQIA+ individuals and my past life experiences have culminated in my interest in not only embarking on this exploratory journey with you all, but on also sharing this journey with the public. Let's back up. I was not raised religiously. My parents decided that we wouldn't be growing up in church. To be honest, I think that was mostly my mom. She wasn't raised religiously either. The choice was left to her about whether or not she wanted to participate in any religious or spiritual practices, and so she left that choice up to my twin brother and me. On the other hand, my dad grew up Mexican Catholic. My family's very devout in their Catholicism, with my grandmother hosting a celebration for her neighborhood each winter to celebrate a Mexican Catholic holiday, the Day of the Virgin of Guadalupe, or Día de la Virgen de Guadalupe, where we would indulge in menudo and champurrado and other traditional dishes. The story of my grandmother's faith is one for the books. She reconnected with faith and turned her life over to God due to a lost purse. She lost a purse and said if she found it, she would rededicate herself to God, and she found it and she did. Growing up with these different religious experiences on either side of my family, I was left to my own devices regarding my spiritual journey, and a journey it was. I explored everything from Christianity to witchcraft and settled on Buddhism. I would occasionally attend church with family or friends and tried to go to Youth for Christ meetings at my high school. I resolved that Christianity was not for me. I didn't connect with the messaging and couldn't rectify myself choosing a faith that decried how sinful I was for being gay at every meeting or sermon I attended. Though of course, I don't judge Christians or Christianity for their sincerely held beliefs. It just wasn't the tea for me. After a weird experience I had in class once, where I had the sudden realization that my stream of consciousness might continue on after my death, but that I would be an entirely different person with no real connection to who I am now. I'm talking about rebirth and reincarnation here, folks. I was sent on a personal quest to figure out what that feeling was about. I researched it and even took a quiz online about my own beliefs and discovered Buddhism. I had heard about Buddhism from various places all my life, but did not really know the core tenets or beliefs of the religion. I tried as a teenager to become Buddhist, but I think I lacked the maturity then to dedicate to the practice of Buddhism. It felt like a lot of rules and sacrifices and dedication that I did not feel ready for. The next phase in my spiritual development came from my lifelong fascination with the occult and the darker side of human spirituality. Darker is in quotations here. I know the perceived darkness came from my own socialization to believe that other types of spirituality or spiritual practices were dark. I began studying and learning about divination, especially tarot, spellcasting, and witchcraft-related practices and beliefs. I dabbled a little in Wicca, but immediately felt that it was too similar to Christianity for my liking. Again, there's nothing inherently wrong with Wicca or Wiccans, just not the cup of tea for me. During this time, I also experimented with other identities and began hanging out online with people who identified as psychic vampires. I'm not making this up. I began learning more about the Bonner vampire community, those who believe they are vampires and engage in a variety of practices to collect energy from others. This ranges anywhere from emotional connection to others who actually drink the blood of someone else. Those who drink blood refer to themselves as sanguinarian vampires. I experimented a little bit with psychic vampirism, never sanguinarian vampirism, but I never really felt anything happening for me. The pull to vampirism was also spurred on, I think, by my lifelong depression and the low energy I always experienced as a result of that. We are now seeing what may not have been apparent at the beginning of this journey, that my spirituality search was intricately tied to my mental health and a desire I had to participate in something larger than myself and to find community. Eventually, I laid to rest my identity as a psychic vampire, the idea of the eternal, unchanging soul, predetermined to suffer this life in search of the energy needed to maintain oneself from others, eventually grew tired in my mind. Once again, and at risk of sounding like a parrot, no judgment here. I believe that these experiences and realities are real for those who are practicing or engaging in these religious or spiritual practices. It just wasn't the tea for me. After I decided vampirism and witchcraft were not the spiritual practices for me, I joined in the Neo-Hellenic faith, Hellenic polytheism. This is a modern-day Reconstructionist religion based on the ancient Greek religion. I even joined a Hellenic polytheistic organization and paid dues and attempted to study to become a priest in his faith. I didn't get very far in that, but I did engage in Hellenic polytheism for a long time. To clarify, Hellenic polytheism is a Reconstructionist practice that is similar to but different from Hellenismos, which exists in Greece today. During my time as a Hellenic polytheist, I was self-devoted to 3 patron deities or household deities that I welcomed into my life and home. These were Aphrodite, Zeus, and Dionysus. I practiced cleansing rituals with a type of holy water called kernips before engaging in highly ordered and ritualized prayer to these deities. I also engaged a little bit in the Dionysian mysteries, where states of revelry and altered consciousness may unlock secrets of the universe. This was definitely a very fun time in my life. It felt good. It felt like something I could believe in for the rest of my life. I was committed to the fun I was having and to the benefits I was seeing in my life regarding my mental health. However, for reasons that are still a mystery to me, I fell out from Hellenic polytheism. The pull I had felt toward it for years began to wane. The mental health benefits I was experiencing were also waning. I eventually turned away from everything and was essentially atheist for a couple years. After this, I reconnected with Buddhism, something I had flirted with throughout all of my other religions and spiritual ventures on my quest for faith. I didn't mention this before, but I have meditated on and off my entire life since childhood. I don't know what caused me to meditate at such a young age, but I think Raven from the Teen Titans may have played a role in it. I would sit and meditate for up to an hour at a time, trying to clear my mind. I am currently still Buddhist. I don't think I'll change religions again at this point in my life, but the mental health benefits I have personally received from Buddhism have been life-changing. It is even apparent to the people in my life who are not Buddhist if I haven't meditated in a while. I get asked if that is the case. It's like people can tell when I am settling back into a state of non-practice because of the way I act during those periods. I also abstain from alcohol and other mind-altering substances. I eat better, and when I'm able to, I fast once a week. To be honest, upon entering my PhD program, I fell off and have been struggling to get back into my own religion again. Maybe this is the push I need. I'm more mindful of all of my actions and behaviors when I engage in Buddhism, including being more physically active. For me, when I am being Buddhist, every aspect of my life improves. To be clear, I'm not advocating for everyone to be Buddhist. The point of this podcast is not to proselytize anyone into any kind of faith. So if I'm not here to mass convert people to Buddhism, why am I here? As I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, I am currently a doctoral student in health equity sciences. My dissertation will focus on the religious experiences of LGBTQIA+ individuals and how these experiences contribute to their mental and behavioral health outcomes. There is no presupposition of whether or not these experiences will be beneficial or deleterious in their health impacts, because everyone's experiences of religion and faith are different. That is what I'm interested in. I am interested in sharing these kinds of stories, the stories that people have with faith, whether that's the lifelong faith they were born into, or if faith is mutable and changing like it has been for me. I am interested in how these stories impact the health of everyday people. Even though my research is focused on LGBTQIA+ individuals, that does not mean my broader interests lie in that population. I think everyone has a story to share with their own experiences of faith. Everyone experiences health. These facets of life intersect. I hope to lend my voice and the voices of my guests to the discussion of this intersection and where there are things that need to be addressed or explored to improve health for all people. I'm also interested in how religious and spirituality shape health practices. I hope to be able to learn more about traditional medicines, spiritual healing including prayer, laying hands or Reiki, and so much more. If there's a blend of religion and health, we'll find it, learn about it, talk about it, and spill all the tea about it. I think it is important to discuss these issues now. Religion is influencing public health policy with new legislation proposed for religious exemption from vaccines. Religion is also influencing our daily politics and informing the decisions they make about how we ought to live our life in the United States. I want to pay special attention to how religion and health intersect in meaningful ways at every level of society, from the individual all the way to the top. Further, I hope to explore ideas of how religion and spirituality can help people. I don't think religion necessitates calling out the deleterious effects of religious imposition, but I do think callouts are necessary based on the contexts we find ourselves in. I hope this podcast will also bring a little bit of fun to these discussions. All seriousness aside, while serious topics will be included, I want to have conversations with people who are engaged in interesting practices and help shed light on traditional and new age spiritual practices that bring people comfort, happiness, and well-being. This includes, as I mentioned before, specific practices like prayer or Reiki healing. I want to learn about it all. I hope these conversations will be fun, and I intend to have fun on this podcast. Even the name is fun. ReligiosiTea is a portmanteau of religiosity and tea. Religiosity is the measure or assessment of religious strength and participation, while tea is borrowed from queer spaces, which also heavily borrows from African American Vernacular English, or AAVE, meaning something akin to gossip, stories, or just downright interesting information. Spilling the tea is dishing or talking about whatever that gossip or information is. I hope these themes of seriousness and fun, humor and respect, inclusivity, diversity, and equity are apparent in the themes this podcast presents. Lastly, I hope you enjoy going on this journey with me. If you have any topics of interest or want to come on the podcast with your story, feel free to reach out to me. I hope to set up some kind of structure for contribution, support, and communication, but all this depends on how this podcast turns out. I'm also happy to share more about my own personal spiritual experiences with you all, if that strikes your fancy. Take care, be healthy, be well, and that's the ReligiosiTea.